Yeah, so my mom, she called the police, sent them to the hospital, and she'd already told them what had happened or whatever, but I didn't want to like tell, kind of at the beginning, but eventually I was just like, I told the officer, and then they went and arrested him or whatever, and he hired a lawyer, and this was the second time it was dropped down to disorderly conduct again. I think he spent the night in the county jail. So it was dropped down again, and he did threaten me that time to take the protection order off, and I told him I would, but I didn't. I did, however, ask the prosecutor to be lenient because I was scared of retaliation. So, and he was just like, okay, well, what if I don't want to be lenient? He was like, we really need you to testify. And I said, well, I'm not going to testify. He said, okay. He said, well, he basically agreed to be lenient on him, but I just didn't want retaliation. So.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Mr. Harris has a daughter who works as a prosecuting attorney with the state of Ohio. Do you feel that she may have possibly had a hand in getting a lot of her father's charges swept up under the rug or reduced? Do you think that, or possibly may believe that?
Yeah, definitely. Because one reason why I believe that is because I remember when we went to court for the domestic violences, he brought up the fact that his children were established. You know what I mean? Trying to make himself in a different light, trying to get leniency from the judge. So, I do believe that.
Okay, because I think the system possibly failed here because they should have looked. Okay, look at your age and look at his daughter's age. You could have been his youngest daughter or possibly his granddaughter, and he's going through this with you. Okay, so okay, now let's talk about the trip. You guys took a trip to Ohio. Am I correct? I'm not Ohio, but Alabama. Am I correct?
Yeah, we took a trip to Alabama. Well, he used to go around to state and buy these cars at these auctions, and he would take me to drive a car back or whatever. And we went to, this was back when I lived in the projects, and we took a trip to Alabama, and we was at this auction, and there was this Infiniti, and there was an auctioneer there, a black guy, and me and Mr. Harris and the auctioneer was standing there, and he was just like, it's a really nice car. And he told me, he said, you would look good in this car. A lot of people said a lot of inappropriate things to me because they didn't think that he was like my boyfriend or anything because of how old he was. I even had a guy get down almost on his knees and ask Mr. Harris, he said, can I ask your daughter out, inside of a gas station one time. But anyway, so we're at the auction and, and that happens. And he tells me that about the car. And I immediately see Mr. Harris start walking up towards the building, fast pacing and in a fast pace. And I start going after him. And as soon as we get up, by where the auctioneer is at on the side of the building, he smacks me so hard and so many people seeing it. And he was just like, let's go, we're getting out of here. And I remember, I don't remember if it was that day or whatnot, but no, it was a different time. I thought that, we had seen his sister that day, but it was a different time. So we end up driving home, and and the whole time I'm fighting with him or whatever. I'm trying to get out of the car or whatever. We haven't got on the highway or anything like that yet. He did a couple stops and I was trying to get out of the car. I even ran into a payphone. So before we got on the highway, he ended up,
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
He grabbed me by my hair and held me down on his lap and drove with one hand. And every time I moved to try and get up or whatever, he would like punch me. He didn't want me to sit up in the passenger side seat because the passenger cars would see that my face was messed up, you know. So I just laid there, like from all the way from Alabama to Tennessee, you know, and I ain't gonna lie, I was stubborn, you know, so I got hit a lot. You know, I tried to lift my head up to get off his lap, and I got hit a lot during that trip. But from Alabama to Tennessee, and we get to this Kmart, and he pulls up in the driveway in the parking lot, and then again he, you know, wants to have sex, you know, thinking it's gonna make everything better, and my eyes were, you know, swollen shut. I couldn't even open my eyes. So I come home to my mom, you know, my mom has my girls, and my mom's like, what's going on? And I told her, I said I ran in the ditch because a deer crossed the path or whatever, you know. So, yeah, it was a really bad trip. And another time, you know, we visited his sister. You know, first we went and bought glasses because every time I went to Alabama, he would put his hands on me because of some dumb guy. And we got sunglasses. We pulled up to his sister's house, and she was just like, why you got sunglasses on? It was almost nighttime. And he's standing behind her like, don't you take them off. And she said, take off your glasses, you know. And she said it probably a few times, and I eventually just took them off. And she looked back at him. She said, James, she said, what did you do to her? You know, and he didn't basically say anything. I didn't say anything, but she knew what the deal was. So, yeah, the Alabama trips were really, really bad.
Wow. Okay, so when his sister saw you beat up and everything and was wearing glasses, did she even chastise him about this, or it was like pretty much like, oh, this is just what he does?
No, she turned it in. She got on him about it. They went and they talked. I don't know what they said, but after they talked, she kind of came to me and was like, I guess it was at some track meet some years ago with him and his wife, and the wife didn't want to do something with some food, and so in the middle of the track field, Mr. Harris smacked his wife or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so she told me, she said, I know how James is, you know. So she did tell me that. She was kind of like on my side after that, you know what I mean? And we talked for years after that. She's such a sweetheart. She was wonderful.
Okay. Now, Mr. Harris and yourself have 5 daughters together. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah.
And
we have 5 kids.
And at the time of his death, you and him, you guys were in the middle of a heated custody battle of your daughters. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Your daughters, at the time, did your daughters want to be with Mr. Harris, or did your daughters want to be with you?
They all wanted to be with me. We had just came from living in an SUV for about 4 years, off and on, like settling down into houses until he would find us, you know. So they were with me. We were on the run from him for 4 years. And, you know, he basically filed for custody thinking that I would come back, but I didn't come back because I was pregnant by my new boyfriend at the time. So they did want to live with me, though.
Okay. They wanted to live with you. Okay.
Yeah.
Behind all of this today, do you? Your daughters are underage right now, so
This call is originating from an Ohio correctional facility and may be recorded and monitored.
Your daughters are underage. Am I right or wrong, or they of age now?
Yeah, the ones I have with him are all underage, yes.
Right. So I'm quite sure at this point, because I'm quite sure his family may have custody of the kids that you guys have together. So I'm quite sure you don't have any contact at all with any of the kids with him. Am I right or wrong?
Right. Oh, yeah, they just, they got their minds made up, and I just cannot believe how, some of them are ministers and stuff like that. Where's the forgiveness at? But the biggest thing is you live with this man all this life, the children, his children. So they, you know what I mean? They know he's abusive. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But for them to sit there and act like I intentionally wanted any harm to happen to him, like he was some saint and they just made like, he was just perfect, knowing that he beat the hell out of them growing up too, and they watched him beat their mother. It's mind blowing how they don't even have an ounce of empathy, because they knew, and I had even said to one of them, like, he's hurting the kids. I didn't say anything about myself. I left. We started living in the car because he kept hitting the kids like really bad, and I'd jump in. You know what I mean? And last time, before I started staying in the car or whatever, my daughter asked me, she said, "Look what he did, Mom." She said, I feel like we could have did something to prevent this, like leave. So I ended up leaving, But the family knows he's abusive. Everybody in the family knows that he's a player and that he's abusive, and he's got kids with students. And, he had a bunch of kids while he was married. Okay. They know this, and they're still trying to act like he's a saint.
Okay. Now, tell us about Mr. Paul Reed. At the time of the death of the murder of Mr. Harris, who was Paul Reed to you?
During the time I was staying in the car, I was actually in Paul Reed's parking lot. It was one of the best places to park. It was the street and stuff like that. It was by the water. He was in this apartment building. So even when I didn't even know him, we were just like living out in this parking lot in my SUV. So, but Paul Reed, when we end up meeting or whatever, he just asked us, if we wanted to come and stay with him. So we started staying with him, and we got found out where he lived at, and here he goes trying to file for custody again. So we just kind of like vanished, and then the custody kind of just went away. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then it ended up coming back, and that's when this had happened. So he ended up filing for custody again. He got custody of the girls, because I had been running. So my kids ain't in school. I don't have a house. I'm unstable.